Welcome, listeners. Welcome to Kyle and Cody's Cult CinemaCast. I'm Kyle.
I'm Cody.
So, this week, we're finally getting to the sub-theme. Decide what we're going to do, and I did break down, and I wasn't going to do a comic book movie. I wasn't going to do it for the sub-theme, because deep down, I'm a big comic book fan. I kind of want them all to get made, if not in the form that they arrived in, but I want them around. So I tried really hard to pick one, and it's October, so it's Halloween season. This might come in between a couple of a spin-off podcast, which you've maybe seen. I don't know what time those will start, but yeah, this is our spooky October episode, the podcast. So I picked The Spirit. Ooh. Directed by the Frank Miller.
Yeah, I don't know why you went with this. If you went just solely based on the idea that the spirit is somewhat Halloween themed, you had so many better options to go with, considering like it's a superhero movie.
Here's the thing. It's Halloween. It's like Halloween themed. It fits the sub theme, which is, as a reminder,
Yeah, but like
book
arguably you could have done like the
book adaptations of a movie that's never should have been made. But continue.
As I was saying, but arguably you could have done anything like the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen has like, I don't know, 75% of like early Gothic like literature as like a subthought or subplot directly linked into the whatchamacallit, and you went for Frank Miller's The Spirit.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I haven't seen the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen movie. Actually, I hadn't seen this, but mostly it was because, well, I just haven't gotten around to it. But I figured I could talk a lot. I could just call Frank Miller a piece of shit for fucking an hour, and that would probably be an episode. To be honest,
I mean, you arguably can't do the same thing for Alan Moore.
Yeah, no,
as much as you can do for Frank Miller.
Yeah, we could have.
I mean, Alan Moore's got his own fucking issues, and I'm not gonna like suck the dick of Alan Moore on the podcast, but
I mean, we could have all like this. The Watchmen was something that's in vague consideration. I just don't think it's bad enough. Also, like the reason.
Yes, but you're basing that solely on the fact that you read the comic books.
Okay, but also like the reason the Watchmen movie shouldn't have been made technically is because the rights should have been is more of like a legal issue more than a legitimacy issue. I mean, there's the issue of like, can you truly authentically adapt a comic into film, especially something that's like Watchmen, which is so like effective in the craft of the comic. So there's that, but mostly like there's some legal issues about the Watchmen where the rights were supposed to go to Alan Moore as soon as the Watchmen came out of print, and it's never gone out of print. So DC's kind of screwing over Frank Miller. I mean, Alan Moore in a way.
Yeah, but they've been notoriously screwing over comic book artists for years.
Sure, yes, absolutely.
Frank Miller, not Frank Miller. Alan Moore legitimately stopped writing for DC Comics just solely based on the fact that a lot of his stuff wasn't getting paid for or stuff like that. He wasn't retaining any of his artistic rights as a writer, I guess. I wouldn't say artist because notoriously he can't draw.
No, I mean most of us can't.
He did do some like, well, especially not like comic book level, like he did like comic strips that was released in like early newspapers and stuff like that, but he never did
early newspapers, he says. Like, he's like, Alan Moore isn't that old. He's not old enough to be operating in the early newspapers. He's still alive.
I mean, I think he was born in the 1960s, if I'm
Yeah,
correct.
but like
He's not
the old
young, but
early newspapers would be like
like he's
1810s,
like at
probably, at
least
least. It's not like
60
that.
or 70s.
I know, but
Yeah,
he's
but
not
like
that old.
when did
Like,
okay, but I'm not talking about early
I
newspapers.
know,
I'm
I'm
talking
making a
about
joke.
early comic strips within yeah.
Yeah,
Where
still.
is that though? Like when did cartoons
Like 1880, they started having like comic strips and cartoons, sort of. They weren't always strips, but yeah, it was around long before Alan Moore was even like before his father was born even easily. But that's beside the point. We're not here to talk about Alan Moore. We're sadly here to talk
Okay,
about
never
Frank
mind.
Miller.
1754 apparently.
Oh yeah, fair enough. But yeah, we're here to talk about Frank Miller.
And
Who's
Benjamin Franklin created the first one.
did he? Did he? Is this a Thomas Edison thing where he invented it, but
It-
really like some other guy invented it, and he just kind of like anyway.
I said Benjamin Franklin, not Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, no, I said Thomas Edison. So yeah, we're here to talk about Frank Miller. Frank Miller is a controversial figure because he was good at making comics once and isn't anymore. People give him work for some reason now. DC is still hiring him for some god awful reason. Like, and he like long after his talent has like faded away. Because I'm gonna say some stuff about like Frank Miller's politics later in this, but Frank Miller has deteriorated as a comic book creator. Like his current works are just not as well done as his 80s stuff.
Okay, just as a fun like little side note, where do you think Frank Miller peaked as a comic book artist or
Um
writer and or artist? I'm not actually
it would
okay. No, he did penciling and inking.
Oh yeah, no, he does art. Yeah, like he does Sin City, I'm sure. Like that's art from him. But I'd say with the Batman Year One and Dark Knight Returns, those are sort of his peaks. But yeah, because he definitely started fading, like seriously fading in the mid 90s was when he started to fall off. Because you can definitely tell there's like a period in like with Spawn versus Batman where he's definitely started taking a downturn, and by the early 2000s he's like become like indefensibly bad. But he's an 80s artist. But yeah, like so a brief history of Frank Miller. He is a artist. He is a comic book artist and writer who who got his big break with Daredevil, where he revolutionized the character. He invented the character of Elektra. Stick, I believe he is. If you've watched the Marvel, like the Netflix Daredevil show, a lot of that's him. Like stuff he's pioneered. He's really responsible for the very gritty angle that he's adopted in the more recent times. And then he would go on to make the critically acclaimed Batman Year One and The Dark Knight Returns, and also his Sin City comics, which are sort of like his iconic project. A lot of his deterioration has been like revolving around the idea that everything he makes has sort of become Sin City, because Sin City is a neo noir comic that's in traditionally in black and white with some color, and is about like titular Sin City and little short stories that happen in there. But yeah, and then in the late 2000s, in the late mid 2000s, he started doing some movies. He directed he co-directed Sin City in 2005 along with Robert Rodriguez, who we just covered a little while ago. and which is honestly like a
You
great
want to hear one of the
pairing.
better tie-ins?
What?
He wrote the scripts for RoboCop 2
Yep.
and RoboCop 3,
We also have an episode on RoboCop
which we
2.
notoriously covered on the podcast. I don't know
Yep.
if
It
I was
was
on that one or
nope, it
not.
was me and Kurt did RoboCop 2. But yeah, he wrote RoboCop 2 and 3 and co-wrote 3. Or yeah, it says it's heavily edited here, but I don't know the truth of that at all. And he also wrote a comic book series called RoboCop versus the Terminator, which showed some promise to start with. It's interesting, at least. He also wrote some RoboCop comics, and so he gets his directorial debut in 2005 with Sin City, co-directing with Robert Rodriguez, and then he does this, and then he moves on 3 years later to direct this movie, The Spirit, on his own. The reason he did this, he kind of insisted upon it. The Spirit is the story behind this. The Spirit is a character who ran in World War One, World War Two, and moved into the 1950s. It's like a pulpy sort of superhero-y comic, but it's more of a pulp thing. It's about this guy Danny Colt who's killed and then experimented on, and comes back from the dead and acts as the Spirit doing crime fighting stuff. That ran from like 1941 to 1952. There's been some spatterings of extra stuff later, but with this Will Eisner, the man who created it, he's basically comic book royalty. He's considered one of the bests. The comic book equivalent of the Oscars is named after him to accentuate how talented he is. And he had passed away in 2005. And I think it's 2005 anyway. And I guess him and Frank Miller were buddies. And Frank Miller insisted that no one else would touch this film. And he was the only one that could bring it to justice because Will Eisner was his friend. And yeah. And the movie's not very good because Frank Miller can't direct the movie on his own. Like like Robert Rodriguez is actually a really good pairing with him for Sin City, because Robert Rodriguez is kind of works in that style as it is, and it really clicks very well, and captures some of that comic book style, because I think he's very much into that. But and he's obviously he was an okay writer. When he did the RoboCop movies, that's way closer to RoboCop and his to Frank Miller in his prime. So we get something better, even though those scripts aren't very good at all. And they were obviously edited too, so he's not totally to blame for those. But since then, he helped like do the screenplays for the movie adaptations of Batman Year One and what's it called, The Dark Knight Returns. Um, he'd go on to do Sin City: A Dame to Kill for the sequel in 2014, and he's just yeah. So that was the story. He took on this task to honor his friend Will Eisner, and then made a terrible movie. He's clearly not really up to the task. And though Frank Miller's not like outside of the style the Spirit would be in, he's a bit not the entirely the correct choice, because Frank Miller at his best is still like a dark, gritty, grim writer whose like protagonists are like grumpy older men, which doesn't necessarily not match up with the Spirit, but it doesn't quite match up the way people maybe hoped when they let him do this. But okay, more on to more, and he'd also degraded as even a comic artist at this point. I think I've talked about this on the podcast before, but he would go on in the early 2000s to make the atrocious All-Star Batman and Robin, and also the Dark Knight Strikes Back, which are just awful, awful pieces of work. And that would eventually culminate in him writing the infamous Holy Terror, which is terribly racist. And I think it's maybe after this. I think Holy Terror is maybe 2010. Yeah, it's a 2011 piece, so it's after this. But that very much, when you get the Holy Terror, it very much cements that Frank Miller can't adapt his style to go on to the style of the older works. There is an earlier Spirit movie, which is probably better. I haven't seen it, but yeah, Frank Miller's like,
And so I guess to put this in a little bit of retrospect into this categorization of writers, Alan Moore actually dominated the best writing category of the Eisner Awards from 1988 till about 1997 was the one time that somebody else came along and took it from him, which by that I mean somebody that I know who somebody that I don't know. Alan Moore won it up until about 1989, so 88 and 89 he won it. And then Neil Gaiman went on a spree for like 4 years for Sandman, and then Alan Moore won it again for the next 3 years.
Frank Miller's also won some Eisners.
And didn't
Yeah.
not for best writer.
Yeah, not for best writer, but he has, I think, won a couple. But
Yes.
Frank Miller and
Best
Alan
writer,
Moore.
artist.
Yeah, Frank Miller and Alan Moore are kind of spoken of the same breath because Watchmen came out at a similar time frame, but they're very different writers. I like Alan Moore definitely comes at it with a more like a better writing point of view, whereas like Frank Miller is like credited with like revolutionizing the Batman in part. Obviously, other writers have received credit for the darkening of Batman, but he's given a lot of credit for cementing that in the popular consciousness.
Yeah,
If
but
not,
like Alan Moore wrote The Killing Joke.
Alan Moore's also kind of responsible for that too. He's part of that because as Alan
Like
Moore's also
Killing
sort of a
Joke
dark,
was the first time we've ever seen Batman actually kill the Joker in it, correct?
Yeah, I think so. We had seen him kill people before, though. I think, if only in the
Yes, but never
40s.
the
But
Joker.
yeah, they're like same era. They got some. They're both credited as being part of like the grim and gritty era of comics, but they obviously have very different approaches. Alan Moore is obviously coming at it. Like Alan Moore is, let's face it, the left wing of this conversation. Frank Miller is the right wing. Frank Miller ends up in a very fascist place by his modern career, and that's obviously still present in
Yeah.
the Dark Knight Returns if you read it over, especially considering like his what we've seen about him in the modern age when he's doing the real bad stuff. And I guess this happened like before like it was entirely cemented, but he had been a bad writer for a good period of time before this. Again, I don't understand why DC Comics is letting him do work. Like Holy Terror should have killed his career. Like just entirely. Just he never should have done like a big two comic ever again. Marvel certainly never hired him again, but that's just how different the companies work. But he did salivate at the idea of doing some Captain America, God forbid, which he doesn't click with Captain America. That's not what he does. But anyway, on to Will. We'll talk about Will Eisner a little bit. He's the guy who popularized the graphic novel. He wasn't the man who invented it, but he popularized it with his book, A Contract with God, which is very good. And then The Spirit is obvious. He's also popularized the splash page, which is a single. It's where a piece of art takes up an entire page of a comic. And he was doing this in 1941. His art is at his 1941 art, or like 1940s art, is also just fantastic looking. He did graphic novels yearly, pretty well up until his death. He's got some sour points. He The original Spirit comics included this character called Ebony White, who was a minstrel style character, like minstrel style African American character. If it did, do you know what I'm saying when I say that, right?
Sorry.
Okay, so a minstrel style caricature of a African American person is one of those old racist cartoons, or where they draw the lips as like the entire like bottom part of the face, and like really, and have like weird features on these African American characters, and it's meant to satirize them. Yeah, it's really gross, and it also
Yeah.
doesn't. What's that?
You asked me if I knew what you're talking about, and yeah, I think I've seen some. It's like the definition of a caricature.
Oh yeah, yeah. Will Eisner, to his credit, quote unquote, did eventually like write out Ebony White, but I think the thing to do would have just been to like start drawing him normally, to be honest, because Ebony White does not fit into that art style. He's drawn like one of those like those old racist 40s Looney Tunes characters, but in like put in with these like pulp fiction art character like images, so it doesn't work very well. So yeah, it was bad. People have drawn Ebony White as like a more normal character since then, in pieces that Will Eisner didn't work on. But yeah, Ebony White's not in this movie. Although it does have Samuel L. Jackson playing a character called the Octopus, who at one point dresses in a Nazi uniform for some reason. So that's maybe not great. I didn't get around to doing this. Forgot to look up what the octopus looks like in the comics.
Okay. Yeah, if you definitely Google Ebony White, the pictures come up, and this one's
Yeah.
just fucking awful.
Oof. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how they got away with this.
Oh, it was 1941, 45, like 43, like essentially, like it was way back in the
Okay,
day.
yeah, that's definitely apparent.
Yeah. No, like he did work in such a time, to be clear. He didn't like do this in 1970 exactly. So I don't think they. I'm just looking up what the octopus looks like in the comics, because I don't. Oh yeah, the octopus never showed his face in the comics, which is weird. He's kind of like a Doctor Claw character. He may be the inspiration for Doctor Claw, actually. Yeah, he's also a master of the skies, so that was also a reason I never saw his face. But
So apparently there's a 1987 version of the
yep,
Spirit that came out.
I think I mentioned that, but
Mhm.
I haven't seen it. It's probably not very good, but
No, it's 1987.
um, but I guess into the movie. Yeah, talking about the actual movie now, because that's a thing we should do. It stars Gabriel Mocked as Denny Colt. Danny Colt? Denny Colt. Denny Colt. Denny
Then
is in like the
DE.
yeah Denny. He's also it's also got Samuel L. Jackson playing the villain, the Octopus. Scarlett Johansson is in it. She plays a character called Silken Floss, who's the Octopus's sidekicks. There's also Ava Mendez playing Sans Serif, pun on the name Sans Serif, the font, who plays a old flame of the Denny cult. Yes, Sarah Paulson plays Ellen Dolan, his in theory wife, sort of. And then Dan Loria plays Commissioner Dolan, who's his father-in-law, but we'll get into this. But yeah, it's 2008 movie. It was a box office failure with a $60 million budget, and it only made $39 million. So that's a loss. This could have been done cheaper. Like if they hadn't, here's another thing. This is trying to look like Sin City for some reason. Spirit can probably fit into like noir, but it's doesn't he doesn't look like the Spirit. You can definitely do a stylized like Sin City, I mean, but it's weird that they went this angle.
I thought Michael Clark Duncan was in this movie, but apparently that is Sin City. And he also played in Daredevil.
Yeah, so this is very much in the same style as the Sin City movie. Though not so much the same style. It's more black and white, but they are very much trying to make this look like what if Frank Miller did the Spirit like he did to Batman or Daredevil, which isn't as good an idea, I think, because like the Daredevil was probably struggling a bit more when Frank Miller took it over. Um, and Batman, like making Batman dark is kind of something that was always going to happen. Like it was weirder when he was silly, to be fair. I think Batman's always going to like settle into a darker area more than a light area, even in like lighter renditions of him. But yeah, this is very much using like Frank Miller's iconic style, almost like he had drawn it. Frank Miller's greatest skill as an artist is his use of negative space. So you'll get images here where you don't have like detailed art, but like it'll almost be like he had cut out construction paper and used that to make like a single flat color to make an image, and it becomes very striking in practice, which can work in a movie. Sin City looks all right, but whether they make the Spirit into Sin City as if it's some sort of spin-off? No, I don't think you do that. Do you make it completely silly? But I think you can do something darker, but I don't think you do this. But yeah, into the movie, I guess. Let's get into the plot. Um, make this try to get that down this a decent time. We open the film to a flat line on a heart monitor, and we are greeted with a woman who is a reincarnation of death trying to tempt the Spirit. So yeah, we get the female personification of death trying to speak to Denny Colt, saying that she's wants him that she wants him. I was gonna try to come up with a better way of saying that, but no, that seems like this. She just literally wants to have sex with him as a metaphor for him dying. And is this supposed to portray death as tempting? And why would he think that? Like, why would Denny Colt be tempted by the idea of death? None of Denny Colt's characterization in this makes any sense. He's very clearly in this movie crazy. Like he's clearly like not all there. I don't know how much he recognizes his the woman who we will be revealed to be his wife. But yeah, he's being tempted. There's the woman in like jewel makeup trying to tempt him. I don't know how this fits in with the Deadpool Thanos Lady Death love triangle. I get that's a different universe, but feels like that might make that more fun. I don't know. Although I don't know. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, whole thing's in black and white. We're open to Denny Colt walking around shirtless in silhouette for the ladies, and he's told by a cop named Leadowitz that there is something bad going down in the mud flats, and the octopus there is there. We're not like given a lot of explanation for everyone is at the beginning. We get like all the background information, like 3/4 the way through the movie. It's not very good. And so the spirit goes to go track down the octopus and help out these two cops that are tracking down the octopus. He hops across the city in while he's monologuing about how much he wants to bang his city. Like just literally just
Yeah,
bang it,
that's
like
a
bone it.
very fair assumption at this point. Like, I don't.
Just like pry out a brick and just shove it all in there. Just pound the side of a building. He's immortal now. He'll recover from the bruising.
It's a
It is and this would maybe be a little more understandable if he were talking about like a real city, but it strikes me with the fact that like he's talking about how much he likes this fictional city of Central City, which doesn't have a lot of meaning for the audience. Like you can maybe get away with that with Gotham City because that's been so well characterized, but yeah, like what is this city he's making up? He also mixes up the metaphor of this later. Later in the movie, he'll do another monologue where he says it's his mommy, and not in the like sex way. I don't know. It could be both. The spirit seems pretty creepy, to be honest. He's certainly not terribly monogamous in this movie. I wouldn't put it past him. But on his way, he stops a murder with a woman who is and he saves a woman who just like swoons over him a bit for some goddamn reason. Because every female character in this movie has to like be hopelessly in love with Denny Cole. Just how that works, because late stage Frank Miller just writes Gary Stews. Just Gary Stews, who everyone falls in love with. So yeah, he saves this woman, and he doesn't tell her who he is because he's not. No, I just say he's because he's clearly suffered some major brain damage from his death that gets explained later in the movie. But I think he's definitely just not all there. The man needs to spend some time in a hospital with like a therapist, specifically with a therapist, probably because he does spend some time in a hospital.
yeah, and it's not a very good therapist if that's a therapist.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they take away your license if you have sex with a patient. Yeah, yeah, this is bad. This is also one of those movies where they have to like introduce every female character and explain for 5 minutes how beautiful she is. It's just a trope I hate. It's just like, yes, let's talk about like reduce this woman to her appearance like immediately upon seeing her. All 5 women in this movie just need to be the most beautiful. It's like them trying to do like a Snow White thing. I don't know. But that's an annoying thing that just happens for the first third of the movie as they introduce the characters. Ooh, notebook where it's not in the shadow so I can read it. And he hops onto Debowitz's car as he's driving to the scene and gets in and drives, which is kind of neat, actually. A neat there's the odd neat scene because occasionally Frank Miller was good at his job at one point. He can occasionally show that he's had some talent at some point. They get to the mud flats, which are a parody for the tar pits in Los Angeles. Is a thing that happens. We get a brief flashback where the other copy's meeting with Iger, meets the one of the female, probably the female lead, I'd say, Sans Serif, just emerging from the water and shooting at Iger, and she goes after some crates which are underwater with a man who is her husband currently, and she's chasing around. At this point, the octopus shows up and try with his goons, a bunch of apparently clones with like words printed on their t-shirts that which vary. Like some of them are like logos, and like fancy Latin words like that, where others are like bozos, and just dumb random words. I thought it would be fun to keep track of all their names, but it stopped being fun after a while, so I'm not going to bother with it. The octopus shoots at Sans Serif for a while, and breaks one of the crates off that she's dragging, and they do that before she gets away. So she only gets away with one crate. Then the spirit shows up, treats Iger. Deebowitz gets murdered by the octopus, and the octopus and the spirit have some ridiculous fight where they throw stuff that they pull out of the tar pit at each other. Like the spirit gets a toilet thrown at him. He throws a kitchen sink at the octopus. Stuff like that. It's really Looney Tunesy shit in like the middle of this movie that's like stylized to be like Sin City. I feel like there's probably a better way to do these fight scenes. I mean, the spirit can be silly. I just don't think it's this kind of silly precisely. But yeah, the two cops get killed. The spirit gets shot a couple times. We're introduced to Silken Floss, the octopus's sidekick, who picks up one of the crates that the clones ran off with while running over one of the clones named Logos. And yeah, that's a thing. Yeah, this fight scene's really bad, isn't it? Like, what was it even? But yeah, that's the thing. This at this point, the spirit is picked up by a paramedic because he's been shot by one of the clones. It's the paramedic is his wife. I'd say ex-wife, but I don't think really. I don't know. Does if you die and then like pretty well instantly come back, does it nullify the marriage? I know it says death does us part,
I
but I
don't
think
know if they were ever married,
yeah,
though.
or girlfriend. Were they? Man, I don't
Were
know.
they married?
I don't know. I just
I
assumed
don't think they were married.
she doesn't have his name.
I don't
To
make
be
the
fair,
rules
yeah.
here.
Yeah, I've just been calling him. I suppose she doesn't have his name, so and this is actually what year is this taking place? Because it's a '40s comic, but they have like cell phones and laptops, even though like in other scenes they don't have those things. It doesn't make a lot of sense. I have no idea what year this is supposed to be taking. The cars are all '40s style, but yeah, there's just random cell phones lying around. Which I mean, sometimes like Archer operates like that, but that's a comedy. Is this trying to be a comedy? Is this trying to be funny? Do you think this is funny, Frank Miller? I don't know. That's yeah, could be. They don't stick with this comedic theme. The next fight scene, the rest of the fight scenes are fairly normal. If like some of them are over the top, they're not like, but not like silly over the top. Just like goofy kind of, but not ha ha funny. I don't know. Yeah, and as the spirit walks away after they want to take him into the hospital, but he doesn't want to go because he'll just heal eventually. Yeah, the police commissioner gives him shit about his two officers being dead because yeah, they didn't call for backup or anything. Because the police it's a noir police agency. It's like 60% corrupt at all times, at least. Yeah, and then as he's wandering off, he gives another monologue about what is he. The octopus kills Pathos because he's too injured and can't get help. And yeah, Iger, one of the police officers, had given the spirit a necklace he had pulled off Sans Serif, which reveals that Sans Serif is a girl that the spirit knew as a child, who it will be revealed later left the town because her dad was killed, and she just left and wanted to pursue a life of wealth, which apparently means that she's going to become a jewel thief, which is weird because she decided she doesn't like cops because her dad died, and that she doesn't want to be around people who are risking their lives, and yet she becomes a jewel thief, and when her husbands die, she doesn't mourn them at all. So her characterization doesn't make a lot of sense. Though that could just be her closing herself off from everything. I don't know. Still feels weird. They try to like redeem her at points, but they don't. I don't know what it is. It's dumb. Yeah, we get our flashback of what the whole deal is. I guess Denny Colt's Uncle Pete had accidentally shot her dad, which yeah, leads her to this whole thing. And eventually that leads to them breaking up. Not over the fact that his uncle killed her dad, which seems like would maybe be a bigger thing, but it's interesting. It's good they're ignoring they're moving past that at least. Yeah, and like her motivation is that she wants money and jewels and whatnot. But yeah, which is apparently more important than not having her loved ones die, I guess. We're then given our next scene, one of our silly scenes with the octopus, where he dresses up as a daimyo and kills a few of the clones because they brought him the wrong box of stuff. Apparently, what was in the box was a couple of artifacts from Jason and the Argonauts, who are a thing in this world. They had the Golden Fleece, which is what Sans Serif was after, and also a jar of the blood of Hercules, which doesn't seem terribly well sealed, but doesn't spill through the movie. And so that's going to be the conflict. Sans Serif wants the Golden Fleece, which
This is a
yeah.
Okay, this is like the dumbest analogy I've ever seen it in. Like, okay, so Hercules famously ascended to godhood. That is correct. However, what does Jason's role play in this whole entire movie except for that he also had a golden fleece, which notoriously Hercules also had a fleece of a lion. I don't know if it was famously gold.
No,
Aren't they the same fleece?
no, Hercules had a like the skin of a lion which had indestructible skin. And he wore that. So that was his thing.
So they're taking the quality of this pneumonia, and I don't know if I'm saying that, the lion in the
Yep.
Hercules myth, and giving it the same qualities as the fleece of the
Yeah, I don't know.
fleece of Jason.
Yeah, you got a point there. I don't think it's ever clarified in like the myths that the golden fleece is like indestructible or anything, which is revealed later in the movie when they use the golden fleece to not explode. But they could, yeah, it's just I think Hercules and the Argonauts teamed up at one point, so that's the justification there. I think it's just maybe someone
I
was
don't know.
collecting Greek hero stuff. That's always possible. It seems like something you'd collect if you were into that. Yeah, so they have to. Yeah, so the octopus has the golden fleece but doesn't have the blood, and Sans Serif has the uh, the blood but doesn't have the fleece. So they spend a little bit trying to get a hold of each other so they can arrange a trade. Which, if they had just made the trade, there would have been no climax to this movie. But the octopus is just a generic supervillain, so he needs to betray everyone in the last minute. But in the meantime, Sans Serif goes to give her informant shit because he had told the octopus about their robbery, so the octopus could steal some of the stuff too. In a scene where she uses a photocopier to copy her butt, which is a plot point because later the
No, this
spirit
is a
will.
plot hole, a giant plot hole. Don't ever call something a plot point if it's Xeroxing somebody's ass.
I suppose, yeah.
Like
Um,
it's
so this plot hole is relevant because the spirit will find the photocopy of Sans Serif's butt and use it to identify her later in the movie and show it to bellboys in order to figure out which hotel she's staying at. Seriously, and of course, the one guy who recognizes it is like a really short guy, maybe a little person. I'm not sure, but at least they imply that the guy wasn't just like staring at her butt. I guess, and that's just where his eye level is. But yeah, this is the thing she does while she's delivering her monologue. and then she convinces her informant to kill himself, like full on Night of the Long Knives style. The spirit ends up at the hospital where his girlfriend looks over him. I suppose ex-girlfriend I could call, because he ditches her a lot in this movie. He does not stick around her for whatever reason. Which I don't. Their relationship is weird because her and her father, the police commissioner, like both vaguely know that this is Denny Colt, but they act like they don't know him in other scenes, and it's very inconsistent.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're also introduced to this lady rookie who is like smitten with the spirit. Yeah, that's a thing. He's walking down the street with the spirit ends up walking down the street with the police commissioner after he has some makes kissy faces with the doctor for a while, and he goes down the street, autographs a child's photo, does an interview for the news, and like just flirts with every lady in town because he's got a serious problem. Actually, I don't even want to call him a womanizer. This is just him having a problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like after like the first like 5 minutes of it, it's just like diminishing returns.
Yeah.
I don't fully understand this movie anymore.
No. Yeah, it's
Like,
it's a serious character flaw. Like this is destroying his relationship with people. And
so sorry. I've wanted to sidetrack this here for a second. I was looking up the Golden Fleece to get a better understanding of that whole aspect of this, but I found a Wikipedia page on a list of mythical objects, and under the buildings, they have Santa's workshop.
huh. That's not really an object, is it? That's like his own house is a
Well,
entire workshop an object? I don't
this is not really what I'm going for here, Kyle. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I think you're missing the
Okay.
whole
Enlighten me.
like there's stuff there's stuff in so many other like mythologies. I just don't feel like that the like Santa falls under what I would define as a mythology.
Yeah, he's kind of like very much a modern myth, really. But at least the way, like, I don't think the actual Saint Nick did that sort of stuff. Really, it's just something that took off at some point. Anyway, yeah, it's at this point where they start discussing Sans Serif's motivation. Which good luck with that. Her motivation isn't very clear. They say they bring up that she's never killed any cops despite getting into a bunch of robberies. Most robbers don't kill cops, guys. Like it's actually strange. Like the gunfight is like what happens when the robbery doesn't go very well. Like it's just how it works. Especially a jewel thief. Like bank robbers, sure, they'll probably kill a bunch of cops. Would a jewel thief killing a bunch of cops? I don't know. And they go on this whole thing about
I, I really
her having an electric complex.
I really don't really think that it actually has a real pointed like I'm just saying that I don't think a robber has any objection to killing a cop when they're backed into a corner.
But still, she's like a jewel thief. That doesn't necessarily connotate someone who does a lot of
Yes,
murder.
but okay, Kyle, let's put us into a hypothetical here. You've just broken into a jewelry store. You somehow trip a silent alarm. There is a group of cops standing around you at this point in time outside the building, and you've got two options.
Keep going.
Like, one, you can turn yourself in, or go out shooting.
Yeah, which would be a bad idea usually.
Yeah, but like, if there's a chance of you going free, are you willing to take it over the fact of a life in prison?
Wait, I'm stealing jewels and they're already giving me
Also,
life in prison?
notoriously, if you go,
That seems like a lot.
well, notoriously, well, if you murder a cop on top of that, of course they're gonna throw you
Yeah, but I
into
haven't
prison
murdered
for
the
the rest
cops
of your
yet.
life.
I'm just you just said I've been surrounded by cops. I haven't killed anyone yet.
Yeah, but I'm making the assumption that like yeah, you're probably going to go to prison for a fairly long time.
Yeah, but if like, what would they realistically, if you steal like a necklace off Kim Kardashian's neck, what are you really going to, like a big diamond necklace? What are they really going to throw you in jail for? How long is that really a prison sentence?
Yeah,
They're gonna
but
get
that's a very, very different. It all depends on how you steal it. Theft over $5,000, I do believe, is considered grand larceny. I think the other one's like minor larceny. I'm not actually too sure about that. Which like assigning prison time based on the value of what you stole is kind of really stupid, and it just
yeah,
benefits the rich at that point in
yeah,
time.
yeah.
Um,
Um,
Kim Kardashian, you're probably going to jail for a pretty long time.
I don't know why that's what. Anyway, on to the next thing. Fucking, I have Halloween bugs all over my house. I am so fucking wishing for frost right now.
What the fuck did you just call those?
Halloween bugs.
Are you like 7?
What do you call them?
They have an actual name.
What
I'm
is it?
just
I don't
drawing
know.
blanks on what that is right now.
Exactly. If you can't think of it, it doesn't exist.
It's not how that works at all. I'm like looking at a picture of a fucking bug right now, and I know for a fact that they. Oh, this is pissing me off.
Anyway, they go on for like 5 minutes about how she has an electric complex, apparently, is a thing they assume, because that's good psychology. Because, if there's one thing that cops are good at, it's psychology. They're famously really good at like pinning down what criminals think. That's famously a thing. But yeah, no, electric complex, for those of you who don't know, it's the opposite. It's the female equivalent of an Oedipus complex, where you want to kill your mom and screw your dad as a woman. I guess it's dumb. It's not a thing, really. It's not how that works. It's a very clunky way of describing like some emotions which don't go nearly that far, as like a bad explanation of what they're trying to say. But yeah, that goes nowhere, because Frank Miller is an idiot. But yeah, apparently the another thing that happened, apparently Sans Serif had made the guy she got to kill himself donate all his money to the police, so that they which they use to buy flak jackets, which I'm sure they get to keep. I'm sure if someone commits suicide and like moments after they've donated a ton of money, you get to keep that money, especially if it you find out that they're doing it under duress. Like, I'm sure that's how that works. I'm sure you
Yeah,
get to keep that.
but it was anonymous.
Yeah, but they tracked it down to this guy. That's how they found the dead body.
Yeah, I'm assuming like just some paperment or a paper trail went missing, and yeah.
But no, they found the paper trail. It led to this guy, who they found dead.
It's like okay, so a bank goes in and deposits money into your bank account by accident. You wake up tomorrow a millionaire. What are you doing?
Okay, but if I found out, okay, that's kind of irrelevant, because they already went and found the money. They know where it came from, like factually. So
Yeah, but like you just turn a blind eye at that point in time and be like, "Well, I didn't know this." And you know
then
what? At that point in time, if I woke up tomorrow and a bank accidentally put fucking $1 million into my bank account, you know what? I'm not coming back to Canada. What are they gonna do? Extradite me? Fuck them. That is their mistake at this point in time. I am leaving.
they yeah, but they've already made all these mistakes. First of all, like, yeah, the polite thing to do would have been just like not take the like not shut up about anything, but they still would have claimed the money eventually. To be fair, I don't know it, but anyway, yeah, this is where the spirit finds the copy. He gets accused of knowing who this person is but not saying, because that's a thing that's going to happen in this movie. Yeah, that's the thing that happens. We cut back to the octopus, who's made a clone with a foot, and with just like a tiny head on top of it, on like a toddler sized foot, which is just plain damn weird, as they say in the movie. This is just a thing that happens for a little bit, that they spent money on to make. But Yeah, they're planning to kill Spirit, whatever, supervillain stuff. It's a very basic plot, actually. There's a few people involved, which is something, but it's yeah. And it's at this point the octopus reveals to his comrades that he had put something into the spirit, and that implying that he is responsible for the spirit being the spirit's healing factor. The spirit has at this point tracked down Sans Serif, who seduces him a little bit. He's just like, "Put your hands up," and then she puts her hands up, and her towel drops because she was in a towel, and she's naked. And then he turns around and lets her put on a robe. It's then revealed that her husband drank from the vase of blood. Which, yeah, that's the first thing you do. Like, you find an ancient vase, find out there's like a deep red liquid in it. I'm sure that's wine. I'm just gonna drink some of it, and then he immediately dies because he did something stupid. Which Sans Serif is just not broken up about at all. She reveals what she wants to the spirit. They get into like an emotional talk where like she's like he's talking about what she her motivations, which don't make any sense, and this results in her pushing him out a window, and he's hanging from a goat head on the side of a building, and he has to swing on top of an elevator, dropping his pants so that a bunch of three women can look at the spirit and think how pretty he is. Because this guy is a Gary Stu who is bad at his stories. Here's the thing about Gary Stews, by the way. It's a common misconception that a Gary Stu or a Mary Sue is like a character who is good at everything. A Gary Stu slash Mary Stu is a character who has a story that completely revolves around how great they are, which is the issue. It's all about saying, like, this character's good. He's so handsome. He's so good at everything. And we're just going to respect the hell out of everything he does, even though what he does is stupid and dumb. And yeah, this is just a factor of Frank Miller's writing, because he's one of the reasons why Batman comics are bad nowadays. Because they made him too good at his job. Because he's the best Justice Leaguer, because he doesn't have any powers, and he's smart, and he can do everything on his own. And all the lady superheroes like him, because he's so handsome and sad. Yeah. I don't like this. This is a bad thing. And also, Frank Miller writes characters who are assholes, so it makes less sense as the more women fall in love with him. So it just doesn't work after a while. He gets a phone call saying where they figured out where the octopus is hiding. He's at a salt factory. The spirit beats up a bunch of guys while he does a monologue about how his city is his mommy.
So the only complex going on here is like an Oedipus complex with the spirit and the city at this point in
Oh
time.
yeah,
Like
this
logically, there's
the people in
I
this
don't
movie
know who
have a large
the father is in this
yeah no
this scenario.
the only the only obvious sexual deviant in this movie is Denny Colt. Let's face it. Like nothing else anyone else can do could be weirder than what he is doing. And they go and they have the gall to like imply that like Sans Serif has some weird sex hangups. Also, it's snowing, despite this being in like what I thought was pseudo Los Angeles, but I guess maybe it's pseudo New York. It's Central City. I don't know. Though why would they have the tar pits? I don't know what geology. Yeah, we cut back to the commissioner and the doctor, who are talking about treating like the spirit and how they're all married to their job, and they talk about missing Denny Colt, who is dead. And I guess maybe this is just them realizing that Denny's changed since his death. It's revealed a little later that Denny had come back from the dead and had agreed to be the commissioner's spy because the city was so crime ridden. A lot of this doesn't end up making sense in this context. You could probably make it work, but yeah, it just doesn't work. Especially like why do they need a spy if the problem is gangs? And he's not really a spy. He's just like a black ops guy working outside the law to beat up criminals. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. I'm sure it was better in the original
And the
comics.
okay, so arguably, like, what advantage does he have out of anybody?
Yeah, he has the healing factor, so he can take a little bit more of a punch, and he's really good at fighting.
Yeah, but prior to what we had known about Danny Colt, we knew he was a cop.
Yep.
Okay, but did being a cop like notoriously make you a better fighter?
Not necessarily, no. I mean, you get some training,
But like
to be
you're
fair,
trained
but
in some form of martial arts, but like that's about it. Like I mean, arguably somebody coming at you with a knife that you can just kind of absorb is a bit better than somebody who can't absorb a knife like fight. But like that doesn't mean he's like
yeah, no, there are like MMA fighters who are better, who could beat up a cop. I'm sure.
yeah.
Like that's the reason cops work in
That's all I'm
pairs
saying is
because
like
yeah,
the healing factor is the only thing he's really got going for him, and some weird immaculate ability to front flip up fire escape somehow, which I don't fully understand, but
yeah, he's got a bunch of
you know,
jumping power, but
it happens. Which is something that's not really quite explained. I guess like superhuman endurance might have been like some level of
I guess he gained some mild
like within the
superpowers.
serum on top of
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, we he gets captured after a while when Silken Floss kisses him, which he just kisses this random woman because he has a problem. He has an obvious problem, and then she injects him with like a sedative, and he falls asleep. And then he's tied to a chair so this belly dancer can swing a sword at him. We're revealed that Samuel L. Jackson is dressed in a Nazi outfit because that's a thing we're doing for some reason.
keep. But I'd like to like talk on that. Like this a random belly dancer chick for a
Yep.
second who gets like a 2-minute cameo in the movie. And it has like zero characterizations besides the fact that she's I didn't realize that she was an assassin according to the Wikipedia page, because if you go to the Spirit movie and go to the Wikipedia page, it has a little write up about her. Um like do you have anything?
I don't know. I mean, a lot of these characters are
Like was there
from
the
the comics, but yeah, I don't know about her. I haven't read a ton of the Spirit,
okay, so
but like, and then she falls in love with him. She just instantly falls in love with him and helps him escape as they're trying to. They agree that the best thing to do is to cut him up into little pieces so that he can't regenerate. Because they need to kill him because he is after the blood of Hercules because it'll make him immortal when combined with his like super soldier serum. So if Denny Colt is alive, that means he can also do that, which would make him a rival. So they need to kill him before they implement the blood of Hercules, which is a sensible thing. That's a pretty good point actually. And it gives them a reason to kill the spirit before the end of the movie if they can pull it off. Yeah, but he just, and as she's going to swing the sword at him, he just makes her fall in love with him, which might just be another one of his superpowers, frankly. It makes more sense than anything. And then she helps him escape. Oh yeah, Nazi octopus kills a muffin. Kills a cat named Muffin because he wanted to demonstrate,
yes.
yeah, how like some of his serums didn't work. I guess. Yeah, he kills some. He kills a kitten for no
And I mean
reason.
arguably like okay, the serum did not affect the eyeballs.
Interesting.
Like you're
Yeah.
just left with two eyeballs within the bottle of the like. That's another thing that I don't
Yeah.
understand. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm gonna show. I guess it's like visual. shock value, but like honestly, like there's
And why he still has this non-functional version of the serum around when he's perfected it already. But
well,
yeah,
yeah, I've got nothing for that.
and as they're getting away, the spirit mentions another woman, and the belly dancer stabs him, leaving him for dead. Even though he
Mhm.
heals, which actually is kind of what he deserves because he's a prick. And he's starting to die. He's actually starting to die, and he's making out with the personification of death, but then turns her down. So he's I guess that's where he fits into the Thanos Deadpool Death love triangle. Is he's Death's ex boyfriend who's just way too good for her and just turns her down. Just friend zones Death. Hell of a thing, really.
Here's the thing that I wanted to say earlier. Samuel L. Jackson gets crushed by a giant Nazi statue,
Oh yeah.
and I like to think that he did not see that coming.
I like it. Best joke. This is why people come to
I
the
don't.
show. I do. I enjoyed that. That was good.
I don't think this is the reason people come from the joke.
Yes. I mean, why else are they coming?
Honestly, like if this movie is allowed to be as campy and also as dark as it is, I'm allowed to do it too.
Yep.
So
Yep. Well deserved. So that happens. Sans Serif and the octopus meet up for a trade, which doesn't end up going through, and he betrays her. Octopus points out that he has 8 of everything, and that's why he's called the octopus. I guess I didn't see that he had 8 of everything. I didn't think that was a thing that we've clarified as of earlier. But
I think he only had 4 guns. And like
I think it was a 4
he's
barrel
doing
gun.
that thing where like each yeah, but that doesn't
Yeah, I don't
that's
think that
not how
yeah,
math
I'm not
works,
arguing.
Kyle.
I'm not arguing. I'm just saying that's
But like they, they they did the thing where like they start off with like 2 guns and then like after every single gun like the guns just keep on getting bigger up until like but I think in total we only saw about 5 guns,
could be.
maybe 6 if you're including like the big fucking which he clearly doesn't have on him anywhere, where
I
he
mean, he's
pulls
wearing
out
a big coat.
machine guns and
He's
starts
wearing a
shooting
big
them in the
coat,
air.
to be fair.
Okay, but not that big of a coat.
Oh yeah, fair enough. Anyway, they get some clear ground, and the police bring up a bunch of military helicopters to shoot the absolute shit out of the octopus. So they shoot at the octopus with helicopters. They blow him up seemingly, but he survives this. Meanwhile, the blood of Hercules is just sitting in the middle of the street, not getting shot. The octopus gets a hold of the blood of Hercules, moves to drink it, but Sans Serif shoots it, and then the octopus gets shot with a rocket launcher and gets set off with a grenade as he goes to go kill Sans Serif. But the spirit gets the golden fleece and throws a grenade at the octopus and uses the golden fleece to protect them from the massively oversized explosion. This is like clearly some sort of nuclear grenade or something. I don't know. It did more damage than the missiles from the helicopter. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Where do the helicopters come from? I think it's the cops. I know I didn't explain that very well. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, you're going to still watch this movie and be like,
No,
yeah, this
but
didn't make
like
a lot of sense.
okay,
But
so arguably there is nothing stopping fucking Danny at this point in time from just licking this blood up off the floor and becoming immortal, right?
true. But then he wouldn't be the hero, I guess. Although, when was the last time
Gives
Frank
a
Miller
fuck
wrote a
about being the hero in this scenario, like like immortality or being a hero.
Yeah, I mean, again, when was the last time Frank Miller wrote a hero? I mean, he like fucking and Batman, like his later pure era Batman is definitely like a bad guy. He beats people up who might be criminals, but that's about it. He's a very bad guy. Yeah, the spirit makes out with Sans in front of in front of his ex-girlfriend, and she
Like
calls him a
4 of them.
bastard. Oh, four, yeah, all four different women he's liked.
He had like a fling with the fucking rookie. Sans was there. I can't remember her name. The
Silken evil one,
doctor or whatever the
Silken
fuck she
Floss.
is was there.
Yeah, she calls him
The
a
only
bastard
person
for
that
good
wasn't
reason.
there, I guess, was like
The belly
yes.
dancer. Yeah. And we see the spirit's thumb moving, which is still moving, so that sequel baits, I guess. Silken Floss gets away with the thumb.
Like honestly, the only like saving grace about this movie is I liked like Silk and Floss's motivation on why she's working with the octopus.
What was her motivation again? I honestly don't remember.
She was talking to Sans, and they were talking about like why she's doing this, and her thing was like, I do this for 5 years, bam, my whole PhD's paid off, and I can go about having a normal life.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, those things get expensive.
Cause like resorting to becoming like a kingpin's underling is definitely like crippling student loan debt in not North America, the United States.
Oh yeah, and like this is also like this would be like in theory 1940s America, so that means she'd be getting her doctorate in the 30s, which I mean I don't even know that how many women were allowed in universities back then. She probably didn't get a lot of scholarships. She's probably paying for that out of pocket, so she might have a big fucking student loan, especially if she's got like a good school and she's like a nuclear physicist. So
Yes, but that's basing this off of whether or not this is actually. I don't understand the timeline of this
no, it
movie.
doesn't make sense. It does not end up making sense because there's cell phones in it. We've been over that.
It's dumb. People are
Yeah.
still wearing fur coats and smoking cigarettes out of those like fucking long ass cigarette holder thingies.
Yeah. And yet there's cell phones and photocopiers. It's weird.
Which I have no problem with, but like, how often do we actually see like cell phones in this?
Uh 2 or 3 times. Twice, I think.
I want to say that I've only seen them when they were showing a video quickly, and which is like I don't know if it's a continuity thing or like that's really weird.
Oh yeah, wait, no, it's definitely 2 cell phones. I think Silicon Floss has like a cell or no, the rookie has a cell phone, and then I think the commissioner has a cell phone. And it's like the rookie's cell phone is like one of those like late 2010s ones that like slide and reveal a keyboard.
Yeah, those were the best phones.
So yeah, that's the movie. It's really bad. This is not a good adaptation of the spirit, and they shouldn't have put Frank Miller in charge of that. That is my thesis statement for including it in the sub theme.
Also, with like the ending, like if you want to know just how much of like an early 2000s movie this is, the ending like ending credit scenes consist of a song sung by Christina Aguilera.
Oh God, I think I turned it off as soon as the credits came up. So
I fell asleep and woke up to the credits playing.
I just thank God that this was actually on a streaming service and I didn't have to rent it because I don't like giving Frank Miller money.
But arguably, it was on Amazon Prime for me.
Sure, yeah. So I didn't. I
You
pay
didn't
like
give Frank
yeah.
Miller money. You just gave Jeff Bezos money.
Yeah. I mean, can you do anything without giving Jeff Bezos money? That's this scam. Jeff Bezos, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Lex Luthor. I'm calling him Lex Luthor now. I'm stupid Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor, but stupid. I don't mean like a statement of quality. I mean like he's literally like not as smart Lex Luthor.
But how do you define a smart character in comic books?
Being able to build giant robots.
Okay, but like anybody can do that in comic books. Like Tony
Yeah,
Stark
exactly.
does it. He's
Exactly.
notoriously smart.
Like Jeff
Bruce Wayne does
Bezos
it.
can't
He's
build a giant
notoriously
robot.
smart.
That means he's
Like
stupid.
if you're saying isn't Jeff Bezos currently working like on automation within the? I'm pretty sure Amazon has giant robots working in.
He's hiring people to make those for him. He isn't personally making the giant robots. Like Lex
I
Luthor
don't know about this.
Lex Luthor would personally weld the thing together if he had to.
Yeah, so would Tony Stark. And also Batman. I think notoriously I've seen like 9 like at least those 3 I've watched well within in the Marvel universe and
That
DC
is the
universe.
fiction. That is the fiction of comic book billionaires, is that they actually do their own work. Like, no real world billionaire actually knows how to build a rocket. Like, no, none of them do. Like, name one billionaire that could actually build his own rocket if he was left to with
And
given adequate supplies. Is just how it
living
is.
billionaire?
Living or dead, I guess. Even it can't be too many.
Arguably, yeah, like billionaires is a very, very prestigious list at that point in time. Like maybe Musk.
No, Musk only has like coding ability. I don't even think he has like an engineering degree at all. No, he literally just knows how to
Okay,
code.
so arguably he could code a rocket.
Maybe he helped, like he coded like something that's involved with PayPal. He does not have any sort of
Yes.
like engineering training.
I don't know.
Yeah.
This is a conversation that I don't.
Yeah. But anyway, so I'm doing the spin-off podcast this month with Curtis. We're doing Kyle and Curtis's podcast of the living zombie. And that's what we're doing for the month. There should be 4 episodes of that. The first one will be Night of the Living Dead, because this is like a spin-off of our Dawn of the Dead episode, like a Dawn of the Dead episode, and we're doing all the the movies that are like share DNA with like direct DNA with Night of the Living Dead, essentially, and Dawn of the Dead. So anything that like claims to share a continuity with it, with Dawn of the Dead or whatever, or Night of the Living Dead. So yeah, it's Night of the Living Dead, Return of the Living Dead, the Day or Land of the Dead, I forget which one. I can find this out real quick. Day of the Dead, and then Zombie 2, and that'll be that month. And that's going to be like a yearly tradition. Me and Curtis are gonna review a bunch of zombie movies, spun off of Night of the Living Dead. And then Cody will be back with me in November, and we will do a review of Jonah Hex, and then another sub theme pick.
Is Jonah Hex not on here because it's a sub theme pick?
No, Jonah Hex is not a sub, because I kind of like Jonah Hex.
It's a yeah, but it's okay, but it's still a comic book.
Yeah, but it's not like terrible. Is my point. What are we giving this movie? By the way, we didn't give this movie a score.
Yeah.
I got distracted.
Like here's my problem. Visually, the movie was good. I
It's
like
all
the
right.
neo-noir feel of the movie. Sometimes it does it justice, but that's like 1 time out of 10. And honestly, if you like, you need to go in and find like a neo-noir movie. Honestly, like Sin City was probably better. I don't think I've actually seen it.
Sin City is this, but better.
Like Daredevil, you kind of get that feel for. It's on Netflix. Probably does it a lot better than this. Like I'm only going to give this about a 2 out of 10, and that's being pretty nice. I I'm on the fence about the octopus as a villain, and I really hated the fact that they tried to sequel bait this, and it was like it's like very ambitious of them to try and be like, oh
And like,
yeah, and look, we're gonna resurrect the guy. Like,
and what's the point? Like, the Spirit has other villains. They could have him fight someone else.
mhm.
Like, we don't. No one wants
I think they
needs the Spirit for this, or the octopus for this.
yeah. And what once again, I think like that was kind of the big selling point on it for a lot of people was Samuel L. Jackson was in it. And I mean, arguably, like Scarlett Johansson at this point in time, I don't know how famous she was. Probably still famous.
She's not great in this, really.
Eve
She's okay.
Mendes.
I feel like a million guys could have played the Spirit in this movie.
Yeah.
I feel like any male actor could have done this role.
And like it's one of those things where like how does the main character not even like function? Like people are like, "Oh, that's the spirit." And the only thing he's got like the Clark Kent glasses of fucking like cover-ups.
Yeah, I don't know. It just he doesn't make a lot the universe, it doesn't make a lot of sense here, does it?
Yeah, okay, so let me go where I'm going with this. If him and his girlfriend in this movie, the cop's daughter, had sex without the mask on, would she be like, "Oh, that's the guy who's the spirit is," or would he be like, "Oh fuck, that's Danny Colt, my ex-boyfriend that I thought died like 3 years ago."
Moreover, shouldn't the spirit just be should isn't like them the spirit not really recognizing his family be like a tragic thing that they should be leaning into? Like that's a really sad thing that the guy that he just doesn't recognize his own girlfriend all that much, and that's tragic. That's not like funny. That's really sad actually.
What do you the spirit doesn't the spirit knows he's Danny Colt. Kelt.
Sort of, yeah. It's unclear kind of. He's like vaguely.
He comes back from the dead and goes to the farmer's that farmer's daughter, the cop's daughter. This would be a very different movie if he was a farmer's daughter. Goes up to the cop's daughter and says, "Hey, I want to become like the spirit so that I can protect the city. Um, but to do this, I need to make sure that everybody who once knew Denny Coltwood thinks he's dead, including your daughter." So there's some recognition there that he knows what he's doing and he knows who he is. There's no like weird retro like great amnesia. That's my whole.
Yeah, and like moreover, like he's wouldn't it make more sense for the people to know who he is? Cuz that's scary, like a guy coming back from the dead and like coming to kick your ass and now he's immortal. Like if like I tell a guy like, "Hey, a guy you murdered, his ghost is coming to kick your ass." Like that's scary. His the way that works in the comics too is a little different. Like his idea is that he operates out of his cemetery where he was buried, and he's called like and like one of his nicknames is the Spirit of Wildwood Cemetery, and that's what he does. He comes out from that
Mhm.
cemetery every night where he has a hideout and everything. But here he's just set up in like a building, so it doesn't make a lot of sense. But yeah, this should be like he's a tragic character in this if you take it at all seriously. Like he has like a questionable mental state. We don't know how much he recognizes of people in his life. Um, he clearly just has some behavioral control issues, and yeah, he's clearly a tragic character that they're trying to make funny, and they don't use any of that for pathos, which would make this movie better. I'm also giving this movie a 2. I'm on your thing. My rubric for a 2 is kind of like a really bad movie with like one good scene, which yeah, that sums this up. So like the visual, like we get to see Frank Miller's strength as a visual artist, making use of his iconic use of negative space, but only really in a few scenes, and it just doesn't work that well. All right. Well, you want to wrap up? I think we've covered everything.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, no, should have
I
made a
think
different
we
movie.
are done.
Yeah, I've gone over what we're
You
doing
should have
next.
picked. You
They
should
should
have
have
picked the
picked.
extraordinary gentleman at this point.
Uh, I mean, there's time still. Maybe you're picking the next. You're picking the next entry. For November. So
Okay.
keep that up. Yeah, follow us on Facebook. Like, comment, and subscribe on the YouTube. Give us 5 stars on iTunes and circulate the links. See you guys next month. Goodbye. Goodbye.